Hey everybody, I hope everybody's having a good day today. On my last upload, I told you guys about a dream and a revelation that was given to me on this dream, and I want to share it with you. Most likely this upload is going to be two parts. I don't want to rush through it. I want to make sure I cover everything. Before I get started, I want to read to you from Matthew chapter 11 verse 29. And this is where Jesus, he says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." And that word there, learn, says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. That word learn, the Strong's word for that is, it's 3129, and it's manthano, and it means learn, a person who is the object of learning. The root word where it comes from is math. Now why that is the root word for learn, just one of those things. It's math, and like I told you guys before, with the numbers thing, you know, you guys that have the numbers click, that'll really get you and give you goosebumps when you see that. Anyway, I wanted to read you that. I thought that was wild. Now I want to go straight to my dream, and it was just little bits and pieces of things, but in my dream, I remember I was walking and I came upon a cowboy, and he had two broken hands, and he was asking me to help him build fences. And I could see that he had already set posts in the ground and already had barbed wire strung up in areas. And I remember the man was very humble and sincere. He was very kind. You know, he was very likable. You know, I wanted to help him, but I couldn't. I remember in my mind I was thinking that instead of helping him build fences, I wanted to tear down the fences that he had already built. I wanted to cut the wires and pull up the post. But during this time I saw my first number, and I saw the number 167. And then I went from there to it was just a little house. And I remember in the house it had an extra section on it that is what most people call the mother-in-law's quarters. But whenever I saw the mother-in-law's quarters, I was thinking the in-laws, you know, the in-laws' quarters. And so after I seen that, I saw the number or the letter J 67. And then after that, I was in another scene where I was helping my dad, trying to help my dad up a hill, and I woke up. Now, whenever I woke up, I already knew that the cowboy, you know, he was building fences, he was a herder. I knew that he was like a preacher, you know, and that his hands were broken. You know, because he was of a doctrine of you know, it was religion. It was of men's hands, you know, that you know, bring you closer to God, the work of his hands, you know, and he was building fences, which in my eyes, whenever I was in the dream, I was seeing it as a prison. You know, he was imprisoning people in religion, even though he thought he was doing the right thing. He thought he was doing the will of God. And I remember thinking to myself, I wanted to tear it down. But he was a likable man. He was humble. He was sincere. He thought he was doing what was right, but he wasn't, and I couldn't help him. And so I knew that's what that represented. And then, like I said, I saw the numbers. I saw 167 and I saw J 67. And so I knew J is the 10th letter of the alphabet, and so I just did 10, 6, 7, and then, but I'm going to read from you the Strong's 167. The Greek is AKATHARSIA. And I want you guys to pay real close attention to these definitions, because they all come together in the end to tell a story. Okay, it's pretty wild. But it's Strong's 167, the Greek, and it means uncleanness, impurity, ritual impurity, touching a corpse or touching something dead. And it also has a word that is the opposite of that, and that is katharos, and it means unmixed. It's pure, you know, something that hadn't been adulterated, you know, mixed with other doctrines. It's a pure doctrine. It's you know, a little bit of yeast, you know, leavens up the whole batch. You know, it's one of those. It's pure. Then I looked at the Strong's 167, the Hebrew, and that is AHAL, and it means moved. To move a tent from place to place also means to remove a tent. And whenever I was seeing this, I was thinking, you know, moving from doctrine to doctrine. You know, I've heard people tell me before, you know, at one time I was this, you know, and I came home and there was something posted on my door from another denomination of church, and I read it, and after I read that, I seen that all my life had been a lie, and basically they jumped from one doctrine to another, you know. But that's what I was thinking whenever I read this. And then I looked up Strong's 1067, the Greek, and it is Guyana, which is the name of the valley or cavity near Jerusalem. Remember that word valley, but you know, this is the place where, you know, a lot of people call hell. You know, it's where they burn their rubbish, you know, and it burned night and day. It never went out. And then I looked up the Strong's 1067, the 1067, the Hebrew, and it is B-E-Y or B-E-K I-Y-R-O-H, and it means the firstborn daughter, firstborn of woman. And the thing that popped into my mind was Leah, you know, Jacob's first wife. She was the firstborn daughter. And then, you know, I was thinking 167 and 1067, if you break those down, like with 1 and 6 is 7, and then add that to the 7, it's 14, and 1 and 4 make 5. And so I looked up the Strong's 5, and in the Greek, that is Abba, which is a term of endurement from a beloved child, dependent, totally dependent on his father. And also one of the other combinations that I used, I used a lot of different combinations of these numbers, but I didn't use all the combinations that I could have used. I only used the ones that I was led to. But I looked at one was number 23, which you guys know I've done some videos on the number 23 a few years back. But 16 and 7 make 23, and that's how I come up with that combination, and 2 and 3 is 5. But anyway, I did Strong's 23, and that means in Hebrew, the father of the gathering, or my father has gathered, which I thought was pretty wild. In the dream, I saw the mother-in-law's quarters, but I was thinking the in-laws, and I was just seen to look up the Hebrew word for bridegroom, and that's Strong's 2860, and it's bridegroom, or a relative by marriage, a circumcised child, spiritual circumcision, or son-in-law, which I thought was wild because I wanted to look up bridegroom, and it showed me son-in-law and in-law. So anyway, just bear with me on this. I only have a few more to go. One of the other combinations was 7-7 because of the 16, you know, or 1-6-7, 1 and 6 is 7, and then the 7. And so I looked up Strong's 77 for the Hebrew, and that is Ebetz, and that means to gleam, shine. A city in Issachar. No, I'm not saying that right, but remember, Issachar is one of the 12 tribes of Israel. I looked up Strong 77 in the Greek, and that's ADAPANOS, and that means without expense, free, nothing to be paid. Okay? And then I went and I did a little bit of a study on Issachar, the tribe of Issachar, and if you'll remember, they got a special anointing or a special blessing, and it means reward. They were people whose lifestyle rewarded others. This is the tribe of Issachar. They were people whose lifestyles rewarded others. Their sensitivity to God is compensation to other people. Remember that word that I looked up says that without expense, it was free, nothing to be paid. But it says their lifestyle rewarded others. Their sensitivity to God is compensation to other people because they are able to know things in the Spirit. You are a blessing and benefit to others. This is the tribe of Issachar. And, you know, I'd spoken about Leah earlier. And you know, Leah was the firstborn daughter. And I believe Issachar was the fifth son of Leah. And it goes back to that number 5. I believe he was the 9th son of Jacob. And if you put the 9 and the 5 together, that's 14. It's 1 and 5. Well, it's stuff that make you go in circles. But anyway, the last one that I did was Strong's 14. And Strong's 14 in the Greek. And that means to perform good deeds, doing what is birthed and powered by God. Remember, it's God working in you, not you. You can't ever boast of anything you do. Anything good that comes out of you is from the Father. So it's whenever people get that confused with me a lot, and they say I mix works, you know, with grace, and I'm not, because anybody who is walking in the Spirit or living by the Spirit, it is the works that come out of them come from the Father and not from them, and they know it. They know that it's Father that has changed them and made them who they are. The Strong's 14 in the Hebrew is ABAH, and it means willing, obey, consent. And I'm going to stop there and make part 2. Yeah. Anyway, I love you guys. See you in a little bit.